For the last spark going upwards, let's go ahead and make a copy of our sparks falling here. So just left click to select it and push Control D to make a copy. We'll go ahead and rename it Sparks Falling. Instead of Sparks Falling, let's say Sparks Rising. There we go. So now, in terms of making it not go downwards, instead of that direction, we want it to go up. So let's go ahead and turn off a couple of things. In the Sparks Rising, be sure you have that one selected. In your inspector, go over to the collision and go ahead and turn this one off. We don't want to use the collision anymore because it's just supposed to be going in an upward direction for us. We do still want to have that same color over lifetime with the bright to the dark on it. The shapes and the emission, we're going to change these up a little bit, but let's go ahead and start from the spark settings right here and work our way through it. First thing on the gravity multiplier, instead of having it set for 1, we're going to set this to 0. So we're going to have it where it's going upwards right there. Now we don't want it just kind of just a straight direction, and we also want to kind of change the thickness of it and those little parts. So we'll go through here and just kind of make a few little corrections to our timing for it. The start time, instead of being all the way for this long period, let's go ahead and start it just, we'll say the lifetime will go from about 1 to a 2. So we'll drop the lifespan of it a little bit more. It's going to get up higher and go off quicker. For the start speed, we currently have it going a little bit heavy right here. I'm going to take the start speed on this one and take it down to about 1. Let's see how it's going to look with this one. Yeah, we'll go for about there, and then we'll add some more force over lifetime and push it up that way. Alright. The start size, what we currently were working with was a 0.001 and a 0.05. Let's do this at a 0.25. There we go. So now if you notice, we're getting a little bit smaller dots coming out. We don't want them as thick as the ones coming low. You can kind of think of it as the ones low are thicker and heavier. That's why they're not floating up. But the ones going up should be a little bit smaller and thinner to kind of let you know that they could actually travel upwards. Alright, so we have those set. Let's go ahead and, the rotation is fine. We can leave it where it's the 0 to 360. And we'll go ahead and just have that little offset of the color to the grayish tone. On the simulation space, we'll leave it at world. We'll go ahead and leave our max particles at 1000. If you're optimizing or you're wanting to make sure it's optimized while it's in a scene, you could drop the particles down a bit for that one. For the emission rate, we currently have 30, but just to kind of show you a different way you could do it, on your emission rate, you actually have a curve with it, and you could actually set, for instance, if we go down here to our curve, you could actually set the curve to be quite different than what it is right here. So just as a, for instance, I could actually take this, we'll say we'll go to about a 5 to 10 range here, and you could actually just go in and you could create a curve of constantly changing values and variables. I'm just double clicking on my curve and just doing a random one here. Is that we could place some that have a certain lifetime. Maybe it peaks at a point and stays and then goes back down. So kind of a neat thing is that this is changing the amount of pieces constantly coming out at that rate. So you're always having a new value and a new variable going through. There we go. So now we've got this one, instead of being 30, we're going from 5, hitting to 28, going back down to 10, going back up. So it's going to feel like it's even more natural when you start to look at it. Alright, so let's go ahead and go down to our shapes. So the shape we have is the cone, and we have it the size. That actually, because of where it's coming from, that actually works for us. So we'll go ahead and keep that one set in place for it. On the color over lifetime, again, remember we did the one from before, and that one's going to work for us on there. What we do want to have though on it is the, where's our force over lifetime? We're going to do the force over lifetime and actually change the value to go a little bit higher on the world. So on the world with the Y, I'm going to take this one and just, we'll do a random between two constants. And let's try a value of about 1. And we'll do a value of about 0.5. Let's see how high we get with this. So maybe a little bit higher. Let's try a 1 to a 2. There we go. So we're getting that little bit higher value. It feels like it's getting up there to the top right there. We could even try to stretch it up a little bit higher, like a 1.5 to a 2, and just kind of see how it's floating with it. The next thing we want to do is go to our velocity over lifetime. Now that we have this going up, the one thing we don't want to do, you see how it's very lifeless, is going straight up. We actually want it to kind of spin with the fire and feel like it's actually kind of like the smoke, how it just kind of goes left and right and through it. Your velocity over lifetime, let's change the type. Let's go and turn it on. We'll change the type for it to the random between the curve value. So actually we'll do one curve value across. I'm going to turn off my emission one so I don't see it. The velocity on the X and the Z, we actually want to take these up and down with another curve. I'm going to take it basically where it feels like it's just a, we're going to go for a little bit above 0. And then we're just going to start to stair step it. So it's going to go a small value to a bigger value. And what we're actually doing is saying we're giving it kind of like a spline to follow a direction with. We're just saying that we want it to follow this direction. Now, I get to 1. I'm actually going to increase this to about 2 right here, which means we'll have to shrink some of our lines here. That way we're still within a good boundary. There we go. And again, notice over here while I'm doing this part of it is that you're going to start seeing, hopefully what you start seeing is a little bit of a motion. So instead of straight up, notice how they start to kind of go back and forth and you see a wave to them. I'm going to copy this one. So remember how to copy, click on this and you can choose the new, which is going to be the one we just made. And then we can go to our Z. So we'll turn that one off and we'll go to the Z, and with that one selected we'll just paste it in. I think it was going to be this one. There we go. And if we wanted it at 1, if we want it larger, we can put it in for the range of 2. So now all of a sudden you got this nice motion happening there. And it looks like we can actually we'll do 1 value on it so it's not so much on the one side. There you go. And then on the Y, we'll just have the Y go at a little bit of an angle. So I'm going to click on my angle option right there. And let's find a good spot for it. When you move it back and forth, we'll do it just a little off center there. Alright. So now all of a sudden you've got sparks. They're kind of rotating in and around with the fire. Hey, close the shapes part. You've got the fire at the base, you've got sparks coming out from the side, you've got the smoke coming up through there. The last thing that you might want to do is add a sound effect to it. That way you can hear the smoke and the crackle and all the stuff happening through it. Alright, so that's going to be our complex smoke. I'm just going to left click and drag the fire over to our fire folder. So now we have a complex fire and we have a simple fire made. Alright, if you followed all the way through that, great job. That'll give you a nice setup on setting up fire, but also kind of thinking through more of a complex particle type.